Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Miller. I hope you guys are all well and safe. I know this is a really hard time for everyone. Things are changing so rapidly. And I want you to know that OTC still has its services if you need any of them. We still have tutoring and all of that kind of stuff, but also if you don't have access to food or money for rent, we have the foundation at OTC that can sometimes help people out. So just know that those services are there for you. For this class, I'm going to be doing a once a week lecture that will not be real long, and then a Zoom session that will be optional. And I'm doing that optional because I know not everyone has access to internet. And so the Zoom will be on Wednesday at the regular scheduled time for a half hour. And that's a time for you to come and show up and ask questions and just so the whole class can see each other. I will be putting the Zoom link in the announcements after I put this video in the announcements. So each week there will be a lecture video on the concepts in the class. And it won't be real long. So what you need to do for this class is read your PowerPoints in your book, and then there's assignments and quizzes or tests for each module. So this week we're talking about memory, and you can find your PowerPoints. I did do a video on the modules on Saturday, I believe, or Friday. And then, so you can just go to the modules and find your PowerPoint. So memory is a really interesting concept because a lot of times people think that memory is something that you're just born with. You're born with a good memory or your memory's not good. And so you'll always struggle with memorizing information. And the thing is, memory is one of those skills that actually can be practiced. You have a TED Talk that you can watch, and a journalist, did research on memory and actually improved his memory. So encoding, storage, and retrieval are the three concepts of memory that we talk about, and encoding is actually getting things into your memory. And we have several different ways of doing that. A lot of times it can be effortful, and what that means is you put effort into learning something, and so that would be like studying for new concepts in this class or any other class. And so you a lot of times have to take notes and do flashcards and tell somebody about it, and that's actually, putting effort. Or if it has anyone ever repeated a phone number back to yourself several times so you would remember something, that's putting effort into getting things into your memory. And then there are other times that there are certain events that happen. A lot of times they're linked with trauma or great emotion like happiness, that you may have had a great memory of your graduation from high school because it was so fun, or a party or something like that. That means that that memory doesn't take any effort whatsoever. It just comes to you naturally. And then there are a lot of things that we won't remember from everyday life just because they're just not that consequential. So you may not remember what you had for lunch last week, but yet you may remember the birthday dinner you went to with your best friends. So sometimes everyday things can just, because they're not something that we pay attention to. So when you really want to remember something, we have to pay attention to it. We have to give it our undivided attention. And when we don't do that, then we won't remember things. We have our memory starts with our senses. So we have our visual and auditory memory. And the visual memory is, we actually see a lot of information that we don't always remember because, again, we don't pay attention to it. Then our auditory memory typically lasts a little longer, and you hear a song that you like, and then you can repeat it back or hum it. But sometimes there's also a little bit of lag in auditory memory where someone says something to you and you say, "What?" But then you get what they say because, again, you have to process that information. And so we can increase any of those processes of memory through what we call chunking. And if you read your PowerPoints, there are examples of chunking That's making mnemonic devices, making words out of the letters of each concept you need to memorize. But chunking typically helps our memory's capacity. Short-term memory typically has about on the average 7 digits or 7 pieces of information that we can remember. So short-term memory is the type of memory where we bring things up into our conscious awareness. So if someone asks you, what did you eat for dinner last night? You're going to have to bring that up into short-term memory to answer that question. And you can hold 7 pieces of information into short-term memory. So if you chunk that short-term memory, like a digit of a phone number, you can hold 7 people's phone number in your short-term memory, but each person's phone number is 7 digits long. So that's actually 49 pieces of information. But because each of them is identified as a phone number, that's what chunking is. So you can use that. The other thing we have to remember with memory is that it is very susceptible to change. When you bring up a long-term memory from the past, from your childhood, say you're talking with your sibling about something that happened when you were 6 or 7, your sibling will provide information from their memory, and then that can influence what you remember as well. And you will then go and store that new information with your already existing memory. And so memory can be very, very constructed, meaning that we can construct memory from what other people tell us, which is why a lot of times police will separate eyewitnesses, because you can be talking to someone who also saw the same event and realize you both saw something different, and that will influence what you remember about that event. And so we have to be very aware that memory is a constructive thing, meaning that we will bring other people's perceptions to our own memory. And we have to be very careful about that. So if someone has told you a story from your childhood about yourself, a lot of times we don't know if that's a real memory or if that's just a story that has been told so many times. So now it has become part of your memory. So just read the chapter, make sure you're reading the PowerPoints, doing the assignments. We will meet on Wednesday in a Zoom session. You can bring any questions you have that you may want to talk about concepts, or just be able to see the class. Again, I will provide that Zoom link, and all you have to do for Zoom is copy and paste the Zoom link into your browser, and you will be in the meeting room with us all. So I will see you on Wednesday. Have a good week.